Thing Fireside Chat. We're going to be talking about robots and humans. What is the future for that? I'm always impressed by anyone that has a Wikipedia page. So I'll start with the guy who has a Wikipedia page. His name is Bruce. He got interested in physics from a young age. He got into Carnegie Mellon because he solved a very complex math problem while just a young teenager. He's nominated into the Lawrence Livermore Entrepreneurs Hall of Fame. He's also Northern California's Entrepreneur of the Year by Ernst & Young. He's going to be joined by Linda, who loves robotics, table tennis, and fine food. I feel like that's a perfect Tinder profile for anyone in the Valley. She's the glue that sticks everything together. She co-founded Nito Robotics, which was acquired by, quite recently, the world's second largest consumer robotics company. She's produced products for Disney, Banana Republic, and QVC. And the lady that needs no introduction, your friend, it's Anna. So please put your hands together for Anna, Linda, and Bruce.
You want to sit in the middle?
Oh, okay. No, why don't you sit in?
Okay.
All right. So our last session, but not least. So why don't you tell a few words about your companies, and then we move to the hard questions.
Okay. I guess you want to start?
Oh, sure. So I'm the CEO of Dishcraft Robotics. We're still in stealth mode, so stay tuned later this year to hear about us. But we are tackling commercial kitchens with process innovation and robotics and AI.
Hi, I'm the CEO of Bossa Nova Robotics. And you can think of us kind of like Google Maps, but for the inside of retail, where what we do is, right now we build the maps using a robot that goes around the store taking detailed photographs and generates list of what's out of stock, the location of every product in the store, what's misplaced, so forth. And we're ramping right now to 350 stores, to be complete this summer, and working with 3 of the 5 largest retailers in the world.
Okay, guys. So now tell us how many of us will be out of jobs in about 5 years?
Right. Well, I think, generally, I think automation has not put people out of work, but improved the work. And so if you look back in 1800, 90% of the people worked on the farm. Everybody was very concerned about automation, what were all these farmers going to do. But today, 1%, less than 1% of the population is on the farm. And automation, I think robotics is just the next generation of automation. We're in Walmart, for example. We do what 7 people do today in a large supercenter, 1 robot. But they will be taking out some people. However, it's going to turn their stores into distribution centers for online. And I think you'll see things like Instacart and DoorDash grow because the stores will become very good distribution centers. So I think jobs will change, but I think generally automation has improved things. I can't think of any case where in the long run it didn't improve life.
Yeah, I also don't think it's any time soon. I think that we are not at the state of robotics yet where we can tackle multifunctioning tasks very well. And I think that where robotics is very well suited is to work alongside humans. And so I think that we'll see a lot of that, filling voids at jobs currently not being filled today, working alongside people and uplifting the entire staff.
Clearly, I mean, a lot of people will be out of jobs, right? So what career should we focus on? What do you think will be next for those who will be out of jobs? Definitely, professional kitchens replace those who cook, right? Your robot will replace people in the stores, right? So there are so many robotics going on so what's next? So people who were using horses, right? They moved and, some of them became drivers, right? So they had to get in different sort of training. So what's happening now? What do you think is going to be next? Where our kids should sort of focus on?
I think it's very hard to predict what new jobs are going to be occurring even 5 years from now. But I think if there's a thing to be concerned about is the rate of change is faster and faster. So I think people have to get used to changing careers at a much more quicker clip, but usually automation takes society, or technology takes society to the next level. Then what's interesting to do for humans changes. Generally the trend in the past has been, it's better to work in a factory than it was to work on a farm. But time will tell. I mean, maybe this is finally the stage where technology gets so advanced, humans don't have any jobs left, but I'm skeptical that it'll be a bad outcome.
I think it's very hard to predict the future. And so, for example, my sister says, what should I advise my niece and nephew to focus their career on? And I say, start with what you love and start with what you're interested in, and then it will grow from there. If you are interested in technology, go to the places where you can solve real problems or where there's a real need. I mean, look, my career, I started in fine arts, and I could never have predicted that I would have been the CEO of a robotics company. But what took me to this place was following things where I knew I could really have an impact and that I derived joy from working on. And so that's really the advice I'd give to anyone starting out.
We need people like you. So what are the challenges? What are your biggest challenges? Is my mic? What are the biggest challenges that you face in your job?
I guess, in our case, it's meeting demand, and this robot area, a company like ours, if it's specific, it's both a hardware and a software company, and those are harder to raise capital for than just to say a strict software play. So you need to raise a lot of capital in this kind of business because it's very, very broad business.
Yeah, I agree that hardware is hard. And I think for us, because we're pre-launch, convincing our customers in a very chaotic environment where there are not robots today, introducing them to technology and proving that we are going to be more reliable and predictable and more accurate than their current staff that may or may not show up it's a challenge why they should invest in us today.
So that's right. So the robotics business is pretty capital intense, right? And there was a lot of excitement about it, but yet there were cases, for example, Anki, right, when the company raised over $200 million and went down, it obviously kind of brought investors on the point of thinking twice before putting money into robotic startups. So do you think the case of Anki is a single case, or there will be more and more failures in the robotics industry?
I think you have to choose the right business model. So our business model is a SaaS sort of model. So it's a data as a service. And so we don't sell robots. We get paid so much per store for the data, and it's a recurring base. So the value of what we're creating keeps earning and earning. Where if you're selling a piece of hardware, then you don't have that recurring stream. And I think that's going to be a general trend. I would predict 20 years from now, even the auto industry will be a SaaS business. So that people want to keep getting the value from their technology. So I think in that particular case, if they don't have a hit product, they crash.
Yeah, I don't know the internals of what happened there or in some of the other robotic companies that haven't succeeded. I think that robotics is pretty difficult. Hardware is hard. I do think that you have to start with the problem and apply the technology to the problem and not just develop, great technology. I think recurring revenue, certainly where you're solving a real problem at a price point that the customer needs and your execution and your business model makes sense, then there will be many winners over time. I think that there's very little doubt in my mind that there's going to be a clear path for a lot of winners in the next 30 years. What's more difficult is, as we're all struggling, to develop it in the short term of really focusing on purely predictable economics and execution.
So for the future startups, what would you recommend? What industry in robotics would be more attractive, like home robotics, industrial robotics, self-driving cars? Where should they sort of more focus on? What do you think?
I think there's cases for all of them. I mean, I think that like iRobot and Nito, my first startup, proved that is a great case for robotics in the home where both companies have sold millions of units and continue to do so. I think that in terms of industrial robotics, we have a strong thesis around commercial kitchens. I think construction is a great area. I think hospitals is a great area. So again, focus on where is there a need, where is a hole that you can fill, and where can you do it at a price point that makes sense.
I think the best place to start is, where a robot maybe is an order of magnitude better than a human. So in our case, the robot can do inventory 10 times faster than a human in a store and costs about the same as a minimum wage employee.
So what keeps you up at night? Okay, be frank.
Right. Well, in our case, it's simply the complexity of the system, making this technology work in a retail store with shoppers and all that goes on. So actually making it work right alongside human shopping, they're just a myriad of issues to deal with, but we're working through it.
In our case, people take, it all ends up being a conversation, but how do we build a culture and make sure that all my employees have what they need in order to thrive and get to the next level? How do I make sure that, our relationships with customers are solid and growing, and investors are happy and want to throw more money at us? And so again, it's like, I spend a lot of time thinking about people.
So you are very experienced entrepreneurs, and you've been sort of in this business before. What would you recommend to young startups? Because this conference is about startups and investors, startups coming from other parts of the world to the Silicon Valley, trying to raise funding. So give a few pieces of advice.
Well, I think you stick through it. I mean, there'll be highs and lows, and it's persistence and really understanding your market and your customer, and try to find the simplest path to the end goal.
One of the greatest pieces of advice I got was from an early investor, my first startup, and he's like, learn from other people's mistakes. So I usually advise young entrepreneurs to join a company because they can learn how a startup is from others. I think do what you love and find a real problem to solve. And patience.
Lots of patience, that's true. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, for coming to talk to us today. And this was our last session. Dan, please come on stage.
All right, let's give it up for them. Thank you so much, Linda and Bruce. You can exit the stage. All right, here is what is about to happen. I believe